everybody! Welcome back to the Inn. We are going to be continuing our card discussion of the Meanstreets of Gadgetzan. If you want to catch up to where we left off last week, there's a little annotation off to the side. But I think it's best, Eddie, if we just kind of get started, because we have a lot of ground to kind of catch up and cover, and we can't really dally too much. So let's start off with Kun the Forgotten King. Kun is a 10-cost 7/7 Druid legendary with the effect of choose one, gain 10 armor, or refresh your mana crystals. I see a lot of players dismissing this, and personally, I think this is a very powerful card. I can see, the dream is, of course, to get it off with Fandral, but let's be honest, that's not going to happen. And both of its effects are extremely powerful. 10 armor in the late game can be a lifesaver, especially for Druid. We imagine how many times if we look back at the past World Championships, how something as small or big as 10 armor could have really affected Druid's late game. 10 armor is incredibly powerful. And then there's also Refresher Mana Crystals, which is essentially you playing this for free. You play the 7/7 on turn 10, it refreshes, you have 10 more mana, and what else could you possibly do? I mean, there's also so many combinations. Aviana, just Naga Witch. There's a lot of really cool things you could do with this card. So, I think it's a powerful card. I'm not sure if, again, I don't think it's a card that, it's going to be in every Druid deck, but I think it is a very powerful card, and, well, actually, I do think that it provides options that I think that Druids, especially Ramp Druids, will take advantage of. So, I really look forward to, and I think we'll see this card a lot.
I agree with you definitively on seeing it in things like Ramp Druid, and as also in Druid in general. I think you're going to see it more so than what you think, though. Because, I mean, people have already stated that's like, oh, hey, looky here, it's the 0-cost 7/7 Dr. Boom card. And I'm just like, no. Yes, the dream is to get it off with Fandral, because you can go Fandral, double Innervate, drop him, and then get both the refresh and the 10 armor. But, like, it's like pulling teeth to get that move. But, I don't know. You might be able to find a way to keep your Fandral alive and keep it protected. It is going to be useful. It definitely is going to be good for Druid.
Yeah, and as far as you're saying, we're going to see a lot. I'm running through the typical Druid type decks right now. I think it's going to be in Ramp. Possibly the Token Druid will use it. I don't think Malygos will use it. I really don't think Malygos will use it.
Are you sure? Because think about it.
Malygos is a very combo-driven deck, dude.
It is.
And it's very tight as it is now. And the question is, if you're going to put it in Malygos Druid, you have to really figure out what you want to take out. And a lot of the stuff that Malygos Druid has in there is kind of necessary for what it needs. Sure, you could do this and have a 7/7 and then play Malygos, but really there's no way you can kind of play it off to try to play it in your... This would be big for Malygos Druid if you could play this and start your combo earlier, but there's no way you can do that. So I'm not sure. Maybe some people will put in Malygos Druid. I just think most Malygos players are going to be looking at what the deck needs to do, look at this, and then say, this is powerful, but I'm not sure this is the right fit for this deck.
The main reason I mention it could be in Malygos Druid is because of the ideal of being able to keep yourself healthy. Being able to keep yourself alive until you get your perfect combo off. That's the big reason I say. And plus, it is a big, beefy minion.
I'll give it that, but Malygos Druid is also running 2 Arcane Giants, and they can play those for free already, and it's bigger, so...
That is a fair point. We'll definitely see.
We'll see. I don't think it's going to end up in Malygos Druid. I see it ending up in a lot of other Druid decks, but yeah, we'll see. It just depends on what people want that to do.
Indeed. The next card we have on the list is Manic Spellcaster. It is a 3-cost 3/4 Mage Epic with the battle cry, choose a friendly minion and shuffle a copy into your deck. Hello, one of the new friends of the new, I won't say new, but the new Reno card that's definitely going to be included. I can copy Kazakus, I can copy my Archmage, I can copy one minion that I know is going to be needed for the later game. This thing is definitively useful, and being able to potentially find it from one of the tri-class cards. Yes, hello Manic Spellcaster, welcome to mages everywhere, I would say.
I don't think it's going to be mage in mage decks everywhere. I don't think so. It will definitely be in Reno Mage. I mean, there's no doubt. If you don't practice in Reno Mage, what is your problem? I think it may also find a home in like Tempo Mage, where you very much want to get maybe your get another copy of let's say Sorcerer's Apprentice or Flame Waker or something like that. But other mage decks in general, depending on what the purpose is, like if it's minion heavy or works for certain minions, yeah, they might consider putting this Manic Spellcaster. However, if you are a mage deck, and there are a lot of mage decks, they're very focused on spells, I don't think this is going to find a home. Because for them, the focus is not on the minions, the focus is on the spell. And in those type of mage decks, minions are used mainly as a way to kind of help the deck lists out as far as the spell lists. Basically what the mage wants to do. And Manic Spellcaster just takes up a slot. So I don't think it's going to be an auto-include in every mage deck, but certain mage decks that want to really focus on having certain minion coverage are really going to use this.
Can agree there as well.
Yeah. So next up we have Drakonid Operative. It's a 5-cost, 5/6 priest minion with the battle cry, if you're holding a dragon, discover a card in your opponent's deck. I like this. This was kind of like the point I saw that this and another card that's coming up, where it kind of showed Blizzard outright kind of telling everybody, we know that you're worried because the rotation's coming up. You're worried that certain archetypes are going to be leaving forever. And, there are going to be archetypes that are a one-and-done thing. Like mechs. Mechs are an archetype that... Mechs, for the most part, was an archetype that was big, and their day in the sun, at least right now, is over. But, when you have a general archetype that's been around for a while, and then Blizzard made them viable, Blizzard kind of wants to keep some archetypes viable. When it's a general archetype and they introduce it, they want to keep that viability around, even if it's not in the current form that we know it. And this card kind of shows that Blizzard is very much interested in keeping the viability of dragons alive. Now, we need a lot more from that going into rotation. We need a lot more to keep the dragon archetype alive, especially Dragon Priest as an archetype. But Drakonid Operative is a good step in the right direction. It gives me a lot of faith that Blizzard is going to be basically trying to keep the dragon type decks alive. And what's really impressive about that is that it is not only is it a dragon, it's a nice beefy dragon. It has a nice effect, which is I think Kibler talked a little bit about this. Basically, where you're getting a card from your opponent's hand, you're not drawing from your deck, so you can offset fatigue a little bit. It's way more powerful than Azure Drake as far as stats, and a lot of people will argue that its effect is better. So really, I initially came into it looking at Drakonid Operative as, it depends on what you want to use. I could take it or leave it. Now I'm very much into take it. I think this is going to definitely have a home in the Dragon Priest archetype. However, saying that, because we have to talk about Azure Drake. It's the other dragon in the room. It's also 5 costs. Its stats are worse than Drakonid. And a lot of people will think that because of Drakonid, you don't need Azure Drake. Maybe. I think Azure Drake still has a home in the Dragon Priest archetype. The reason being because Dragon Priest in general is going to be running much bigger minions. You're going to want to get to the minions. You're going to want to get to the cards you need and have them in hand and ready. And yes, Drakonid Operative might give you answers that you didn't have by letting you discover a card from your opponent's deck. But it's not going to help you whatsoever in getting answers from your deck. Azure Drake can still do that, and more than likely, it's probably the only draw that you really have in your Dragon Priest deck. So I don't think Drakonid Operative is a reason to dismiss Azure Drake. Maybe you're running less Azure Drakes, but definitely I think there's room for both of them.
If anything, you can run a one of the Azure Drake and run 2 copies of the Drakonid Operative. For me, I'm more or less, if I decide to run Dragon Priest once this new set is released, I'm definitely packing in 2 Drakonid Operatives for a multitude of reasons that you already mentioned. But it also, when it comes to the Operative, it allows me to peek into my opponent's deck and see what they have left, what they don't have in their hand yet. So that way, I know, okay, I can play around this. I can also pick something out that may help me take care of that problem as it comes up. So being able to have that little tiny peek and cheat sheet, I like it. I really do. Plus, it's got a really good set amount of stats. When, like right now with Priest, how it's just low man on totem pole, I've mentioned it last time. I'm going to mention it again. Priest is coming up, and it's going to be big again. So this is a step in one archetype direction, and I can't wait to see what it brings.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Like I said, I think I'm going to be packing at least one of these in my Dragon Priest deck, but it's one of those things I'm going to have to kind of sit down after the expansion comes out and we've opened our packs and kind of, look and see what can I take in. I'm going to have to reevaluate what my Dragon Priest is going to look like. I'm going to have to sit down. For me, I might run one off of this and one off of Azure Drake. I might run 2 of this. I don't know. I'm going to sit down. And I think it's going to be very dependent on what you want your Dragon Priest deck to do.
Very, very much so. So, moving on, we have Counterfit Coin. It is a 0-cost rogue card that, when played, you gain 1 mana crystal this turn only. Alright, I'm just going to clear the elephant in the room as hard and fast as I can. Yes, Gadgetzan Auctioneer combo piece, here it is. And plus, you get 1 mana crystal to go along with it. Don't get me wrong, now you've got 4 coins, in a sense, because 2 from Tomb Pillager, and then 2 from this, before the rotation happens, and then once the rotation happens, this is going to definitely still have its home in your Miracle Rogue decks. So, if anything, it is also a good combo piece if you plan on running Auctioneer Beardo, which is something we will definitely discuss later down the line. But Counterfeit Coin, useful. Definitely can see it being played more so than anything. So that's what I got for me.
Yeah, here's my thing. It's about time, Blizzard. I'm surprised it took them this long to create this type of card for Rogue. This is a card I actually expected a while ago. I kind of started seeing Rogue kind of wanting a card like this and kind of needing a card like this. Rogue is a class that can really use this for multiple reasons, mainly combo, mainly get some stuff out. This is kind of what Rogue wants to do. And with Rogue being able to just create so many different types of coins, I was starting to wonder, I know Magic actually has a card like this, which is essentially a cost 0, and it can essentially give you a colorless mana when you need it. And I was just wondering, I'm going, Magic has this. Where is the card for Hearthstone? I've been waiting for this for a while, and it's here. It's pretty much. I think it's going to be just as useful as I think it will be. I think some people are discounting it, not understanding how powerful this is, and really a lot of people I think who have played Magic should actually realize how powerful of a card this is. I think you're going to be surprised how many rogue decks are going to be packing this thing. This is a sweet card. I love it. We're going to see a lot of really cool things from Rogue. So, next up is Pilfered Power. Pilfered Power is a 3-cost druid spell that says gain an empty mana crystal for each friendly minion. So, you want some ramp? Because Druid has some ramp. Druid's going to ramp like there's no tomorrow, guys. Ramp, 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 ramp. The one thing I am concerned about is I really do hope that this card, if you can't ramp anymore, does allow pretty much will give you a free draw, like is standard in Druid. It probably does. But other than that, yeah, Druid's going to be able to do what the class has wanted to do for a while, which is ramp for days. It seems like that's the theme going into this expansion. So far we haven't seen a lot of Blizzard trying to work on the Beast archetype in Druid. They kind of done their job on that. I think they're very, very, very interested, though, in trying to really give Druid's identity as far as the ramping class more oomph, more power than it's had before, to really allow those types of decks to exist in the meta. And, yeah, I'm not sure how much we will see Pilfered Power, but just the fact that it exists means that Druid just have more tools just to ramp if they need to. So, if nothing else, this is a good sign and could mean a really interesting and significant shift in the mana that I'm actually excited for.
See, like, I'm already just kind of looking at it, and it's like, by turn 3, when my opponent's sitting across from me with 3 mana, the fact that I can have up to 6 plus mana because of just how this card can work, it's honestly terrifying to think about. Because if you're wanting to play like an Avania deck, this becomes one of your key pieces to just get up to that high amount. If you're someone who potentially wants to run a Yasarj deck, there you go. If you're looking to get out and be combo heavy with like your Miracle decks, or just in general, maybe your tokens, this is one of those cards to where it's like, oh, you're already, I'm still at 5 mana, why are you at 10? Why? And you just go, Druid, whatever, and just boop all over your opponent.
So, Eddie, do you think Druid's going to become your hated class again?
No, actually, I'm still going to hold my hatred for Hunter, and depending on what they do with Shaman, I may have to go have a word with Blizzard, because it's like, guys, you didn't fix it. It's still just this monstrosity of a thing that I have to go, yeah, why? But moving on from said Pilfered Power, we have Finja, the Flying Star. What? It is a 5-cost 2/4 legendary creature with stealth. Whenever this attacks and kills a minion, summon 2 Murlocs from your deck. After, like, I'm seeing this, and I'm seeing some of the other stuff that has been released this set as well. And I'm just sitting here going, we're really trying to potentially boost any Finn Paladin. Potentially also trying to have every Finn is awesome Shaman be a thing. So it's like Finja, when you first see him, it's like, okay, that's meh, it's no big deal. But then you kind of sit, and if you just let the gears turn in your head a little bit, you go, Okay, that's what he can do. He can do all of this and just be, oh god, it's terrifying to think about. So, really, I can see him having a home in these decks. I won't say he'll be, like, meta-defining, but I know he'll be at least playable in this new setting.
Yeah, I think if you're running a Murloc deck, and I know this minion has been getting discounted a lot by the community, but hear me out. If you're running a Murloc focused deck, you want Finja. I mean, yeah, a lot of people are like, he has to attack and kill a minion, but here's the thing: you're gonna keep on stealth keep him in stealth until he can. And Murlocs are a deck that want to be very swarm heavy and has the philosophy of power and numbers. So chances are you're going to have some Murlocs who are going to be boosting this guy up, helping this guy out, and then you wait until you can kill a minion. Hopefully he can stay alive, but it really doesn't matter if he stays alive or not. A lot of people are going, well, what does it matter if he doesn't stay alive? Guys, he has one job to do only. Yeah, you would like to get more uses out of him, but if you can get just one use out of him, it can be very, very powerful.
Tempo swings.
Yeah. So, I mean, just to kill something, and hopefully something important, get 2 Murlocs from your deck, hopefully that weren't Battlecry specific, but basically just 2 Murlocs from your deck, really important Murlocs to have, and just work on power numbers to just swarm the board and control the board, and that's all you really want, and that's what this guy helps with, and yeah, I think he's going to be very important in Murloc decks.
Yeah, if anything, that's why I also mentioned the every fin is awesome, because with every fin, being able to reduce its cost for each Murloc on the field, depending on what the board state looks like, that could be a free play when Finja comes out and kills a minion. So, hey.
Yep. So up next we have Meanstreet Marshall. Meanstreet Marshall is a 1-cost 1/2 paladin minion with the death rattle of, if this minion has 2 or more attack, draw a card. Now, at first glance, this doesn't look like much. He's going to get killed before he has a chance to do anything. But I think if Paladin is smart, they're not going to play this guy on turn 1. They're going to play this guy when they can do what they need to do. And hey, here's the even though we're going to be getting into with a lot of what the Grimy Goons in particular want to do with their minions. Besides that fact, Paladin is just a class that just is able to just boost their minions anyway. So just the fact of the matter remains that if you're playing this guy in a deck, you're going to have the method to boost him. And chances are you're going to boost him probably on the same turn you play him. So I think that Paladin will get use out of him. The only question is his death rattle worth it? Because there are also a lot better ways to actually just draw a card. So I think I'm on the fence on this one. Because on one hand, I think Paladins could use him, especially with a lot of the tools Paladins have, like small-time recruits and a lot of their minion buffs. I think Paladins could use him and could get use out of him. But you also have to consider he's a 1-cost card. There are a lot of other good 1-cost cards that could be just as good, if not better, boosted. And at that point, you have to really consider his effect. And I'm really not sure his effect is worth it, to be honest. I think that Paladin, either by themselves or there are other minions that they have access to, that cost just around the same, where they're going to get more use out of the card. Because, you can say, well, it can be just as useful, or if not more useful than, let's say, Loot Hoarder. But also, because it's a 1/2 versus a 2/1, it costs 1 less. But at the same time, you could also boost up Loot Hoarder, and Loot Hoarder would actually do more damage a majority of the time. And even if you don't play Loot Hoarder, its effect is not contingent on it having so much attack or so much health. So you are guaranteed the card draw. I don't know. Maybe this will see play. Maybe I think it's just going to depend on what type of deck you want to play. Just the more I think about it, I'm just not sure that the effect really justifies this thing inclusion in a lot of decks.
Now, see, for me, I can definitively see it being something that does get played because, okay, I'm going to drop it on turn 1. And the reason why I drop it on turn 1 is because I didn't pass turn to my opponent. My opponent has clear board and goes, I can either play a creature and have something on my side of the field, or I could potentially respond to that and make it to where my opponent doesn't get the card draw. So it's like that you get the Jeopardy theme in your head. When you start thinking about it, it's like, which one do I do? And then you just go, alright, so make your decision. Then on turn 2, if it's still alive, there's an easy way to just get it out there and boost it up with like Direwolf Alpha and the like. If I need to be able to use him to control the board, I'm gonna get my card draw. Also, if need be, I can jack him up to be a 2/3 1 cost when I drop him onto the board, or I can have it to where, like, depending on which state of the game we're in, if he comes to my hand, he's going to be either the 1/2 1 drop, or he could be just that late game card that is like, okay, desperate for a draw here, need something. So, also, as another thing, too, we could potentially see Paladin start to run like a weenie deck, to where it's just swarm and vomit your hand onto the board. He's a good card for it. So,
yeah, I can see where if you're running that kind of deck, where maybe you would consider him. But chances are, if you're not running that deck, I'm not seeing much reason to consider him. And trying to make your opponent lose tempo, I still think is a bad play, is not that great a play when you could, where from a deck building perspective, you have other options to complete what you want to do. If you want card draw, you have Loot Hoarder. If you want a sturdy 1 cost that can boost up, you have Argent Squire. This card just doesn't seem to fit in. It only seems to fit in if you're trying to run a low-cost Swarm deck. I mean, in that case, okay, it kind of makes sense, but otherwise, I don't see the regular Paladin player really running this card.
It's one of those things to where, with how Hearthstone has become a tempo game, he can be used for the tempo. So that's where I can see it coming from.
Yeah, but then again, why don't you use an Argent Squire?
Because it's easier to get rid of.
How? They have to spend just as much to get rid of it as they would this, because it has a freaking Divine Shield.
Okay, blip, get rid of the Divine Shield, then smack it with my minion. Oh no!
What minion? You're
Depends on the turn state.
I know, exactly. And that still means that they're getting rid of a minion, and that they are kind of reacting to your board. So in a way, it's still a win for you.
Could be, yes. But even now, we don't see Pint size, or not Pint size, bleh. We don't see the Argent Squire ran in Paladins.
But here's the thing: Argent Squire is ran in Paladins where they're worried about swarming the board, and I can see Meanstreet Marshall being used in those decks. But you're trying to make an argument for Meanstreet Marshall being used in almost every Paladin deck. And if Argent Squire is not being used in almost every Paladin deck, and Loot Hoarder is not being used in almost every Paladin deck, I don't see Meanstreet Marshall being used in every single Paladin deck. Yes, in a weenie and a swarm-based deck, Meanstreet Marshall will be used. But he's not going to be used because you want to affect the tempo swing. And I think you're greatly overestimating him for that.
I might be, but I think we'll just have to see what happens, and who knows? I might be wrong, you might be wrong on this one.
Yeah, so
We'll definitely have to see going forward.
It's like, to be honest, like I can see maybe some people experimenting with small decks. I mean, that appeals to me. But I also know how Hearthstone how the Hearthstone community thinks, and I have a feeling they're going to probably steer away from it.
We'll see.
We'll see. prove me wrong. I would love to see a lot of variety.
I definitely would as well. But moving on, we have Fel Orc Soulfiend. 3 cost, 3/7. At the start of your turn, deal 2 damage to this minion. It's I want to say better Injured Blade Master, because you can't get rid of it with something like a Frostbolt or a 3-attack minion as soon as the big guy hits the field. Now, granting its effect of dealing 2 damage to itself, it's a bit of a hamper, but being able to have synergy with the 1 cost, 1/3 priest. Bob, help me with this one.
Northshire Cleric?
Thank you. Northshire Cleric. I can't believe I forgot that.
That's okay, I forgot stuff last week.
But with this, you can have synergy with it. Granting, yes, it does die to the Shadow Word. But you can also resurrect this. And it's a good minion to also target with something like Silence. So, hey, maybe your Purify finally has a use. Who knows? I guess we're going to have to wait and see how Fel Orc comes into play.
Yeah, I think if any class is going to use this, it's going to be Priest, because really, Priest is the one that kind of uses it in Blade Masters, while others kind of, gloss over it, because Priest has a way to kind of get it back up. And Fel Orc Soulfiend could be the same. However, that also does make me worried about his effect, because that means Priest has to constantly use resources just to keep this guy up at tip-top shape. And if he lets it go for too long, this guy's going to become very susceptible to removal. So it can be good early on, but it's going to become more of a hassle the longer a hassle for the Priest player the longer it stays on the field. Maybe if you're running Purified deck, this would be a good target. But again, I'm looking at this and going, I can see some use for it. I think Priest will probably be the one that will be experimenting with this the most. And I'm going back and forth about, is this better than an Injured Blade Master or not? Is it on par, or is it worse? I'm not sure. I guess we're going to have to see this in practice. I think, for me, I'm just looking at that effect going, I think that could hurt you in the long run more than help you. So,
yeah, I got nothing.
Yeah. So up next, we have Pint-sized Potion. It's a 1-cost priest spell that gives all enemy minions -3 attack this turn only. Again, doing what Priest wants to do, which is pretty much setting these minions up to either be not that big of a threat, so you can remove them with ease, use variety of spells against them to just control the board, to kind of get those more annoying minions that you can't really deal with and give you solutions. Whether you're just stealing them with like a ball of Shadow Priest, or stealing them with stealing with the Shadow Madness, kind of giving you a little bit of an idea to just kind of smash them and just remove them, or maybe to remove them with one of your Shadow Words, either a Shadow Word Pain or Shadow Word Horror. I can see Shadow Word Horror getting a lot of use with this in conjunction with Shadow Word Horror. Actually, we might actually see that being ran a little bit more as an AoE type board clear. So yeah, I think this kid gives Priest a lot of answers that, they don't have Shrinkmeister anymore. This kind of comes back and say, hey, we can do that. It only costs 1 mana. I kind of love how early on, over the past year or so, Blizzard has been getting rid of a lot of the basic and standard, basic and classic spells that were 1 mana, upping them to about 2 mana. And now they're giving us a lot of really powerful 1 mana spells, and they're like, it doesn't matter because these will rotate out eventually. So it's nice to have spells in for the 1 mana slot. Makes them very easy. Gives you a lot of options. A lot of options when you're considering what you can do. This also pretty much it allows them to just be comboed, which is what these spells want to do in the first place. I think this is going to be, we're going to see this a lot.
Oh my word. Saw this announced and then just started just cranking over the potentiality to be able to do things. Just, you've got a minion on your side of the field. I want that minion. So, just Pint-sized Potion, give me your Sarah, give me your Sylvanas. If I need to run 2 of it to get your Ragnaros, give me your Ragnaros. Just give me things. Because with this, I'm just going to take it. And just, it's another card that's making Priest go back up on the rise again. So, it's such a good card for control. Such a good card. And Bob will touch on a lot of the other aspects of it. So next, we have Dragonfire Pition. It's a 6-cost priest spell. Deal 5 damage to all minions except dragons. That Dragon Priest archetype's still looking pretty daggone good right about now, boy, I do say. However, I can also see this Dragonfire Pition being ran in other decks that aren't just dragons. So what you have is you have an AoE spell that just nukes the board. And it's just so useful. It's another control piece that Priest can use. Try saying that 5 times fast.
You can't even say it 1 time slow.
I can't. But it's also one of the other cards that can be discovered through the tri-class cards. And there's another card that will be discussed in a future video that can draw this card to it. Or, excuse me, draw this card to the class you're in. So, I really like it. I really, really do.
Yeah, I remember I wasn't even considering other variations of Priest running this besides Dragon Priest. And then I watched the Kibler video, and then I'm like, he's kind of right. Because I don't really think of those terms, because I kind of like to keep my minions, if at all possible. I don't really like nuking myself, which is why stuff like Chilma and all this stuff is not stuff that easily comes to me. I'm getting better, but it's still not my first resort. It's still not going to be, I'm going to pack this in going, hey, I'm putting an Excavate Evil, just it doesn't come naturally to me. I'll use it if I need to, but it's not the first thought in my head. And then when I started hearing people say that, I'm like, actually, yeah, it makes sense. Priest actually isn't really concerned if they do happen to have to nuke their board to nuke their side of the field to get rid of the other side of the field. We've seen that with the Akunai Circle combo. We've seen that with Excavated Evil. Priest doesn't care. So yeah, I think a lot of Priest players would pack in Dragonfire Pition just to have that other option. I still think it works out the best for Dragon Priest. But yeah, I can see other priests using it. And for Dragon Priest, this is the AoE spell we've been waiting for. I am so excited. I love this card.
It's so good for control.
It's so good. It's so good. I love it so much. Come to Papa. Oh, man. So, up next we have Friendly Bartender. Friendly Bartender is a 2-cost 2/3 minion with the effect of, at the end of your turn, restore 1 health to your hero. I kind of want to see more healing effects in the game, but the thing is, players in general, and me included, if you're going to have a constant healing effect, we want it to be more powerful. That's why something like Vitality Totem worked. Vitality Totem was awesome. It was giving you 4 health back. I would take 3 or even 2 health back a turn. 1 health back a turn is not something I'm really going to consider when I'm deck building. Because essentially what you want is either bigger consistent health being returned to you per turn, or you want just this ability to give yourself to basically do some burst healing, and effective burst healing. And this card does neither. The effects aren't that you know, I guess the stats are okay-ish for 2-drop, but there are a lot better 2-drops with that stat line, and that you'd much rather have. And I guess some people are going, well, you're getting health back, but I don't think it's enough health for what players really want and what the game really demands. So I actually really don't see this getting much play.
Yeah, in Constructed, it's not going to see much play at all. If anything, we're potentially going to see it have a at least good and solid home, which is one thing I have honestly forgotten to touch on this video, is in Arena. That's where we're going to see this card more than likely strive and thrive. So I think that's where its home is, and where it will probably properly belong.
Maybe. I guess it will all depend on what other options you're given for the 2-drop. But even then, we'll have to really see, because again, I'm going to be going, I don't know.
Yeah, I completely hear you on that. So, if anything, we're moving on to Mistress of Mixtures. It is a 1-cost, 2/2 Death Rattle, restore 4 health to both players. Let me just start at the very top. It's a 1-cost, 2/2. So, if anything, it's very good as far as baseline stats go for a 1-cost. This has already been compared to Zombie Chow, so you're going to be able to have a good control card with this. As well as being able to, when its Death Rattle hits, restore 4 health to both players. So you've got another refreshment vendor in a 1-cost. Control for days. Well, I won't say for days, but, control for at least the first turn. So, and you don't see very many other 1-cost 2/2s. The only other one that we have is Enchanted Raven. So, Bob?
Yeah, I agree with the stat line. It pretty much gives everybody access to a 1-cost 2/2. I do think, in general, Druid still has the best 1-drop in the game. So I don't foresee Druid playing this, because they have freaking Enchanted Raven, guys. Why do they need this? They have Enchanted Raven. They don't have to worry about the drawbacks. As for the effect, I don't like the effect, but then again, I didn't like the effect of Zombie Chow. I didn't like the effect of Refreshment Vendor. I honestly didn't think they'd see that much play. And hey, I was wrong. People love Zombie Chow. I didn't, but people love Zombie Chow. So I think since people love Zombie Chow and people play Zombie Chow, I think people will play this as well. Do I necessarily like it? No. Will I play it? No, but I think people will. So there you go. Next up. Sorry, I kind of cracked myself up there. So next up we have Wind Up Burglebot. Wind Up Burglebot is a 6-cost 5/5 mech with the effect of whenever this attacks a minion and survives, you draw a card.
I think that's basically what you could say about this card. Is just
I mean, I'm going to kind of expound on my It has an effect, card draw, but you have to attack and survive. And guys, in a meta where we really don't see Starving Buzzer that much, do we really think we're going to see this card that much? I mean, maybe if we had a strong mech synergy, a strong mech archetype still in Hearthstone, maybe we would see it, because there might be ways to buff it. But even then, I don't think there would still be better options. That's how I feel. I think that they're just better options, because they're better things that you want to do. If you want the 5/5 stat, you have a Stranglethorn Tiger. If you want card draw, there are actually more reliable ways just to get card draw. Maybe somebody will find interesting things to do with this, but in general, history has shown that cards with effects like these, where you have to attack a minion and survive and do all this other stuff, that they really haven't found a home in the among the Hearthstone meta. And I don't think this is going to be either. So that's all I can say about that.
You've hit practically all the nails on the head. This is just going to be something that you can pick up and use in Arena as a tempo play and something that is also beefy, if anything. So, moving on from it, we've got Lunar Visions. It is a 5-cost druid spell with the effect of draw 2 cards, minions drawn, cost 2 less. Now, here's where I have my problem. Because there's already a 5-cost spell in druid that has strength, and that's Nourish. Which, with Nourish, it's you choose one, you draw 3, or gain 2 mana crystals. With Lunar Visions, it depends on the deck that you want to play, I would say. If you're running a minion-heavy deck, Lunar Visions is going to be your best friend, because making your things cost 2 less, especially in something like a ramp deck. With something that involves combo, you're then taking the risk of drawing not what you need with Lunar Visions. So, it's a pick your poison card. I mean, could it see play alongside Nourish? I say yes, because it's the optimist in me that says yes. But the realist in me says you've already made your decision on what you're going to want Lunar Visions for. So, that's all I got to say about that.
Yeah, there's been a lot of comparing this to Nourish. I think this fills a different niche than Nourish does. The best thing I can compare it to, in my mind, even though it costs less, is something like Call Pet. Basically, I think the deck that includes Lunar Visions has a certain expectation of what they want their deck to do. With Nourish, you basically have to make the decision at that point whether you want to just ramp some more or whether you want to get answers from your deck. You're not looking to play anything once you get things out of your deck. You just want potential answers. So Nourish is all about providing opportunities on future turns. Lunar Visions is about giving you opportunities now. And when you're looking for answers, so you're looking for answers in the form of minions that you can get out right now or very, very, very soon. And I think that's where the difference is with Lunar Visions and Nourish. That Lunar Visions is going to be very focused. A deck with Lunar Visions is going to be very focused on their minions being their answer. That they want to get their big minions out sooner. Not necessarily ramping out to a big mana total, but basically making the most of the mana total when they can. But by getting out minions that their opponent doesn't expect out sooner than they normally would. I can see this working very well with something like Innervate. With Nourish, it just depends on what you want. So I think depending on like a very combo-heavy Druid deck or whatnot, it's going to be using Nourish over the Lunar Visions. But if you're very concerned about minions and having your minions be your answer, getting out something big to make your opponent panic that they probably don't have the answer for, you're going to be using Lunar Visions. I think I can see why the comparisons are there, but I think that the decks that they're going to be useful in are going to be completely different decks. I think you probably can use Nourish and Lunar Visions in a deck together. However, I also think that because of the high cost, chances are you're running a one of at least one of them. So either you're going to be running 2 of one and a 1 off of the other, or one of each. And it just depends on what you're wanting your deck to do. And I think as we're going into this further into this expansion, that's kind of what we're finding out. Blizzard is now pushing you into when you're deck building of making a decision as far as what you want your deck to do, and then stick by your freaking decision. Build around that. And that is kind of exciting. That's kind of interesting. And I do think we'll see Lunar Visions, but it'll be in decks that have actually made the conscious decision of this is what I want to do. and those decks are going to be running. Will probably be running in a certain way anyway, and that could be very beautiful. So I guess we're done with that. Anyway, next up is Mark of the Lotus, which is the one-cost druid spell. I think every class is getting a one-cost spell this expansion. They're getting at least one. You get a one-cost spell, and you get a one-cost spell. This is Druid's
so far.
This is Druid's one-cost spell. Mark of the Lotus. It gives you all your minions +1/+1. So yeah. If you want to make your big stuff bigger, go right ahead. More than likely, we're going to see this in token decks, just spawning more tokens, and they're just big and huge. And oh man, maybe we'll see this in beast decks. I actually don't think so, but I think this could be really interesting how we see Druid players play with this. If we see them, I think for sure we'll see them in token decks. I'm not so sure what other decks we'll see them in besides, but this could be interesting.
If anything, taking a look at the Mark of the Lotus, it's a cheaper Power of the Wild. So you can drop it, run it, and make it to where it's not the choose one. Now you've actually just got the, I'm just going to run this and use it and do it. I'm just going to make the +1/+1. Definitely for Token Druid. I can see it in Beast Druid because of the ability to just give my beast bigger stat lines, and then I'm going to copy you, and I'm going to have another one of you and just be like, aha, and just be happy with it.
Yeah, I can see your point on Power of the Wild.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to completely replace Power of the Wild in certain decks.
No.
I think token decks, definitely, I think it could replace Power of the Wild. You're going to make your choice of what you want more, and tokens just want the spell. So it's a cheaper spell and it gives you more options. So I can see that replacing that in Power of the Wild, unless you really want to keep Power of the Wild there for that possibility of getting out the Beast token. I think in Beast decks, I don't think this will replace Power of the Wild because it gives you more opportunities. And I think if you're running Fandral, you're going to want to keep Power of the Wild anyway, so there you go.
Yeah, and plus, let's not forget something that can be comboed it with, as well as Lotus Agents. So we can discover it from the Lotus Agents and use it in, like, Druid, of course, Rogue, or Shaman. So those little totems can get +1/+1 now. But that's...
But then just a question of will they? We never know, so...
Yes. Next up, we have Auction Master Beardo. 3 cost, 3/4. After you cast a spell, refresh your hero power. At first, I looked at this card and I was like, I'm not exactly sold on it. It's no real big deal to me, and it's super meh. Then I got to talking with our mutual friend, Netsu, about this. And he kind of just planted that seed in my head of, anytime you cast a spell, it refreshes the hero power. So if you're looking to potentially, ramp up minions in Shaman, so you play the spell, you've got your Thunderbluff Vine out there, you tap, it's giving you a buff after tapping originally. So it's just like tap, tap, and you just ramp and ramp and ramp further. There's also the ideal, because of Rogue. Wrong class, same concept.
You have the ability to, if you want to ramp up that Poison Blade,
you can, especially with Maiden of the Lake on your side of the field, making your hero power cost 1, so you just tap and tap and tap, and you just keep making that blade bigger and bigger and bigger, while also getting yourself cards along the way. So there are ideas, there are combos that you can do with Sir Beardo, but it's up to you to want to do them. So I still remain on the fence with him, but I'm more leaning towards it being viable than just kind of taking it at its face value.
I'm going to disagree with you.
All right.
I don't think it's viable. And let me explain why.
ahead.
You gave 2 examples, both of which will fall flat on their face. Number one, here's the thing that, and I've discovered with Shaman. The Shaman hero power stops working if you've used it to summon all 4 basic totems and they're on the field, which means you can't use that as many times as you think you can. And if you want to use it, if you want a minion to give you multiple uses of your hero power, there's Garrison Commander, which is cheaper, and chances are by that point you can protect him. So in that case, there's a much better card for it, and really, between casting spells, whatever, you're not going to have as much time, because keep in mind, your hero power costs 2. 1 if you have Maiden of the Lake out there, and that's not even counting how much each spell costs. You're really not going to be able to pull off your hero power like as you're thinking, I'm going to pull it off a bunch of times per turn. Not really. And if you want to pull off your hero power multiple times per turn anyway, you can use something like Garrison Commander. And as we've seen, most people really don't care to use that. For Rogue, you use the idea of Poison Blade, which sounds fine if we're in a meta using Poison Blade. And as far as we've seen right now, that's really not the case. Rogue, if anything, would probably be the one to make the most use out of Auction Master Beardo. But they have to be working on that combo, and you have to count on people to want to work on that combo. And I'm really not sure I see players wanting to make that kind of deck. Maybe I'll be wrong, but every instance I look at of any deck that will want to use the hero power multiple times, like let's look at Mage, the one that has a lot of spells that could actually probably discount some spells. Mage already has a card that allows them to use their hero power unlimited times per turn, and that's Koldara Drake. Eddie, when was the last time you saw a deck with Koldara Drake?
In Arena.
Outside of Arena. Let's just say outside of Arena.
Outside of Arena, if my opponent decides to play Dragon Mage, which is very
yeah. And I actually think in many ways that Koldara Drake is actually viable, and I think it's more viable than Auction Master Beardo. I'm just saying in the current meta, and with what you want to do with your decks, I'm not seeing a lot of viability for Auction Master Beardo. Because just how much spells cost, coupled with that, then you can reuse your hero power, I just think its effect is going to be wasted, and I just don't think its stats are baseline good at all. I mean, maybe you can find a way to use it, and if so, more power to you. But I'm just looking at this and going, I just can't see the viability here. I thought I saw it at first and going, oh, this is exciting, and then I thought about it but everything else that uses this kind of effect either doesn't last long, or it doesn't have as much power as you really think it will. And that's kind of where I am now. Why pack an auction? If you're in Rogue, why pack an Auction Master Beardo when you're going to get much better results just from a Gadgetzan Auctioneer? So, I think it's an effect that sounds exciting at first glance, but when you really stop to think about it, I just don't see how it's going to be that useful. Maybe if you build an Inspire deck, but I don't think people even tried Inspire decks. I don't think people are going to be looking at that. So if there's a turnaround, this could be exciting. I just don't see it.
That's where I think we leave it up to the commenters for a definitive. Excuse me.
Yeah, and I think that's where we're going to leave it off for next week, or this week. So next week we will be picking things up at Shaku the Collector, and we'll be going through pretty much most of the Grammy Goons. We'll try to see how much ground we can cover by then. Please comment. Talk about the cards yourself. What do you think of them? Do you agree with us? Do you disagree with us? Why? We will admit we have no idea what's coming. We're just trying to keep an open mind, but sometimes we just have to kind of be honest about this.
But of course.
So until then, guys, see you then. See you next time.
We will see you next time. Bye bye.